am so excited today. I have Mike Zeller with us. He is a business architect and does so many amazing things in the space of supporting businesses to grow, helping you really unlock your unique genius. And he's supported many different businesses to boom. He's a coach. He does NLP. He does everything. He's called Magic Mike. Like, if you don't know who he is, well, you probably do, because as soon as I was on Clubhouse, actually, it was almost like, Mike, it was almost like your photo glowed. And I was like, I'm supposed to know that guy. And that's kind of how my intuition pulls me towards people. And then I think I clicked on your profile or messaged you or something. And here we are having the conversation on the show.
Well, you trusted your intuition wisely. I think it was destined. So you're a joy and a gem of a human being. So I'm excited to dive in today.
Yeah, so thanks for being here. So the first place I want to start is you've had so much success in, you founded, over 12 companies, and you've helped businesses grow and expand. What has been your biggest, there's probably so many pieces here, but what has been your biggest learning on this journey of being an entrepreneur and supporting a lot of different businesses? Because so many of our listeners are entrepreneurs or wanting to step into that space.
Question. There's so, like you said, there's so many lessons, but man, the first one that comes to mind is your identity precedes your destiny.
Right.
And if you think about a lottery winner, why do over 70% of lottery winners end up broke 3 years later? Because their identity never matched what their reality was, and vice versa. A multimillionaire goes broke 2 to 5 years later. If they were self-made, they're usually back where they were,
right?
And then some. And what took them 15 years the first round takes them 2 or 3 the next round. And because your identity, so doing that deep identity work, it really hit me one time when I had a client that was like, she was actually a frustrated client. And she was one of 5 deeply frustrated clients I've ever had in my life. And
frustrated.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah, exactly. Like where she was like pissed at me. I don't have many clients that are pissed at me. Most of them are very happy. But she came to me and I was like, all right, I gave her all the tools. I gave her all the tactics. I gave her all the strategies. She wasn't really executing them.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized it was because her identity hadn't shifted and she hadn't done the identity work. And then she was blaming it on me of why her income's not going up. And I realized that I also, as a coach and mentor, like that was an aha moment of like, hey, she's saying I'm this and that. And it was because I hadn't helped her shift her identity. And even though I told her she needed to work on her money mindset and her money relationship, she hadn't really worked on it. And so it was like an invisible ceiling that she couldn't see. So now I hammer on that till people get it.
Yeah. And it's not fun to have clients that are like, you're not helping me. You're like, I'm actually giving you the pathway. What I find with people as far as not getting resolved, I always find it comes down, from my experience with like unhealed trauma, which is very much connected to your identity, the stories that we tell ourselves. And so when we start to pick apart our identity, maybe with this client that you're referring to, or, just in general, can you give us more of a framework on how us, as we are hitting these glass ceilings in our business or in our life, with our income, with our relationships, whatever it is, how do we identify what identity we're in and how do we begin to shift it?
Beautiful question. Well, I think you have to look at back to the trauma side is what are the feelings as you want to move up? For example, does it feel unsafe? Like lots of times trauma and stories of limitation, they want to hold us exactly where we're at because we know that space and it feels safe. And so we have 3 zones: the comfort zone, the discomfort zone, and the zone of paralysis. And the magic is in the discomfort zone, but the comfort zone is like the crabs in the bucket, where one crab's about to escape and the rest of the crabs just grab and keep pulling down that crab.
Yeah.
And it's our subconscious mind that's an invisible gorilla. It's our gorilla brain, really. And what I've found is 2 things. You either have to shatter and bust through that upper limit. We were talking about the upper limit formula. I'll pull up a graphic if you're watching on YouTube. But our lives are like a roller coaster because the universe is like a roller coaster. We're like in waves, right? And the universe functions in waves, sound waves, light waves, so ups and downs, even electricity. Tesla said, hey, it's alternating current. Edison says, no, it's direct current. Well, guess who won the battle? Tesla, alternating current. But how do you actually bust through this identity and create a new identity? You got to hit that identity shift with enough intensity, enough focus, enough persistence, in a radical shift in perspective. When you're shifting in perspective, now you're at a new wave pattern. And so I've just seen that happen over and over. When we get a new perspective, that's when it aha clicks. And we're like, whoa, something, I see how I can break through. So that's my first thought. I went on a long ramble, but hopefully that helps.
I love it. Well, upper limiting is so important because it's like being on a train track and you've always been going in the same direction. You're going, and then there's an opportunity for you to expand, and boom, you get knocked back down. You get knocked back, and usually we do it to ourselves because we're like, this is super scary. I don't know what that is. I find this really common. What I'm noticing in entrepreneurship, but also in the dating space, right? It's like, whoa, and what you show up like shows out for you. It's like, whoa, this is not, it doesn't feel safe, right? And so same with money, right? You can have two people who have the same amount of opportunities, and yet one person's really making it and one person isn't. So when we talk more about like upper limiting, I'd love for you to share, because one of the things I really love about you, Mike, is you're super transparent and you just flow with where you're at. And one of the things I've noticed about watching you is you just share what's going on. So what has been something recently that's happened in your life when it comes to upper limiting, and what did you internally tell yourself, or what was the shift or the perspective that changed within you that allowed you to bust through that?
So I'll share a little victory, maybe. All right. So on Sunday, we're driving from Vail, Colorado to actually Columbia, Missouri, which is like an 800-mile trek with an infant in the back seat.
An infant.
And not an easy trip. And she's also in one of those leaps where they're like doing a big growth spurt and they're extra fussy. Well, I get pulled over as we're leaving Colorado by a state trooper going 94 in a 75. So that's my first ticket. About 4 hours later, I get pulled over again, and don't get off with a warning again. And so I got 2 tickets, totaling, whatever. I think that one was at 1 a.m. The other one was at maybe 6:30 p.m. And you know what? I just rolled with it. I was like, hey, I hadn't had a ticket in like 4 years. These are what I call them my speeding dues. I'm like, all right. So, if I rewind 5-10 years before and in more of a middle-class mindset, I might say, I might cuss and I might get all pissed. I might like let that, I just got $300 in fines or however many hours in traffic school, whatever. I don't know. But I was like, you know what? I've saved probably 100 hours by driving faster than the average person. And my wife is okay with that. She drives fast too. And you know what? I drive safe, but I drive fast. And I was like, I'm not going to get trapped in scarcity around that. And so I just felt abundant. I was like, you know what? I'm fine. I mostly have saved, and if I value my time at $1,000 an hour, that means I've $100,000. I've saved $100,000 worth of time and paid $300. I'm okay with that.
Wow, that's a good investment.
Yeah. So that's how I looked at it. Is you know what? It's okay. So that was a sign that I made it through. And then when I also am writing this book, I know you're writing a couple books, and getting this first book out, it was like, man, I've procrastinated. I've done certain things just to get into the final finish line. Like I just showed you the Amazon listing a second ago. I've procrastinated, like the final touches, I like subconsciously want to ignore. It means it's a new identity, like approving the back cover, approving the quotes, but all the tedious stuff, I don't even want to touch it.
Right.
But it feels really good, like when you finally shift to that new identity, because I know I'm going to be in a different plateau then, or a different pathway.
Yeah, and that's a really cool new location to be in because it's just looking back and noticing, oh, remember when that was really challenging? Remember when I didn't feel comfortable doing that? And that's my new comfort zone. And I want to go back and I'm super excited to talk more about your book and like unlocking your genius and really finding that because I think it's one of the most important things that we can do is to really live on purpose and live in our genius and give ourselves permission to do it without doing the things that aren't aligned. But going back to more of the identity piece first, when you're talking about the three stages, can you just mention the three again?
Yeah, the stages, there's really four stages for the zone of
Mhm.
genius.
Okay.
And I'll pull up the little graphic here. The first stage is, your unique talents. And I have people go through 5 different personality tests. And bonus, they can do the Enneagram, but the 5 are DISC profile, Myers-Briggs, or 16 personalities, Strengths Finder, Colby Index, and my favorite, the Wealth Dynamics test.
So you
The
do all
beauty,
of those.
yeah, all of them.
Oh, okay.
And here's why. Because I remember taking the Myers-Briggs when I was 21, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. Showed a lot of dimensions about who I am. Then I think the next one I took was Strengths Finder. Then I eventually took DISC profile. Then I eventually took Colby. They all showed me different dimensions of who I was. And my metaphor is like, all right, it's a blind man. A blind man is touching this animal. He's not sure what it is. And he grabs the hoof, and it's big, wrinkly, dry skin. Then he touches the tail, and it's kind of a thin little tail, and then swats back and forth, a little bit of hair at the end. Then he touches another, like its belly, and it's like big and thick and dry. Now you don't know what it is. Could be
Right.
a rhino, could be any number of animals. And then he finally touches the trunk, and it feels like an elephant. It is an elephant, but now you also still don't know what type of elephant it is. Could be an African elephant, could be an Indian elephant, there's a third type. I don't remember what it is. But like so it could be any number of these things, and you don't know if it's male or female or healthy or unhealthy. So the tests all show you different dimensions, and people make a mistake. The other thing is we have clues scattered about our lives, about who on earth we are, but very few people have them organized and distilled and aligned and synthesized, so they know, oh, this is for me, or no, that's not for me.
Mm,
And the beauty is like, hey, I can walk into any meeting, any business partnership. Like I just signed a new business partner today. I can walk into that relationship and put myself in exactly the right position to succeed, to where I'm going to kick butt. They're going to be happy with me. Or I could maybe play out a position in a zone of excellence where I'm going to be frustrated. I'm not going to bring the highest and best value. I'm not going to get compensated as highly as I would. And they might end up being a little less happy. I won't get as magnificent of results. And but it's because Socrates said, to know thyself is the beginning of all wisdom. And I know myself. I know my talents, which is the first quadrant. Second, my key relationships. Where do I have this hotbed? Like I love connecting with people like you, right? Like this is joy for me. It's late at night. I'm okay with that. This is fun.
we appreciate you.
Yeah. But like, there's people in your life that bring you
Yeah.
life, and there's people that
Mhm.
bring you death. That there's
Yes.
a sparkle, or there's just, oh, that's a dead zone.
Yeah.
Then the third area, you're defining life moments. So if you look, we all have those defining life moments where, there was a clue, or I felt really alive, or there was an endless curiosity, where that I just felt my pulse quicken. And then the fourth area is your values and passions. And when you get all 4 of those areas, unique talents, life experiences, key relationships, and values and passions aligned, boom, you're in your zone of genius, and you can just absolutely kick butt and have fun doing it. And you're aligned with your purpose and your vision and direction, and also aligned where you're going to get compensated really, really well. So
I love that. I'm super excited to order your book. I'm going to wait until I can order the physical copy because I'm going to get you to sign it when I see you.
yes, of course.
When I'm hearing, so one of the things I just want to pick out of what you said was the relationships are huge. And you were talking about the stages of identity earlier and like crabs pulling you down and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So environment, to me, what I've noticed is environment is so huge because if I'm in the wrong environment, I can feel like potentially well, I don't belong here. This isn't right, or I can't be myself, or whatever the thing is. At least that's stories of the past version of me.
Mhm.
So, absolutely, environment, relationships is so big. What do you find, like, if we were to take, that framework and just kind of put it aside for a moment, we'll come back to it. But what do you find is the biggest challenge that people face when wanting to be fulfilled in life? What is the main thing that keeps coming up as their symptom and they're talking to you about?
Yeah, good question. So I really started creating this process about 6 years ago, just because a lot of my entrepreneur clients, they were in seasons of transition or they were doing this role just to pay the bills, but they really wanted to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's what holds people back is they don't have a clear pathway.
Yeah.
And if
Mm-hmm.
you don't have a clear pathway, then what happens? Your mind, very few people are like the truest of true entrepreneurs. Like the actual stats and percentage of entrepreneurs in the world is about 4%. And it's stayed that way since the 1970s, at least
Wow.
in North America. It fluctuates minimally. Now, so we think very few people really are born to be entrepreneurs in the risk profile. Now, people can be intrapreneurs where they're kind of entrepreneurial within a company. They're 1099, that type deal. But I think I think a pathway is a piece that holds
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people back. Like I'm working with a former CEO of a government organization. She had 80,000 employees underneath her. Well, within 3.5 months, she's on her own for the first time in her career. She's 56 years old.
Wow.
So been an executive for a couple decades in a
Mm-hmm.
mostly male dominated world. And I'm mentoring her on building this new path and stepping in her zone of genius and leveraging her brand so that she can feel confident with that path. And then secondly, it's like owning and knowing your worth and being willing to charge it and knowing how to get compensated for it. Like that comes down to one of my pillars, which is how to create an irresistible offer. You create an irresistible offer around your zone of genius that you can just deliver and kick butt on. Now you have a real chance to make a dent in the universe for your niche and your platform. So path, knowing your worth, making an offer
Mm-hmm.
that works.
Mm-hmm. Love that. I love that. And going back to your framework of, relationships, passion, unique talents, those defining life moments. So for you, what was the defining life moment that you've had in the past? Let's say, a lot has changed in the world in the last couple of years. So what is something that has happened within yourself within the last couple of years that is a part of this book? Tell us about the story, because I know everything is personal, right?
Yeah. I had a season where I lost about $1 million personally. And
Wow.
during that season, like I was really good at driving progress. I'm really terrific, one of the best at getting something off the ground, driving progress upwards and
Mhm.
to the right. But as it grows and matures, I suck. I absolutely suck at managing the finishing of projects. I create chaos wherever I go, like because I create something out of nothing, which means there's chaos.
Right.
But once there's something there, I ideally need the right operational partners to systematize, to operate. And I suddenly was operating like 4 or 5 businesses at a time, and I'm just juggling, potatoes that are on fire,
Right.
and I couldn't hold it all together, and business by business kind of either I had to sell, crumbled, whatever, partnership disintegrate. I had one cash cow business that disintegrated, and that created a ripple effect in 2018, the year I got married. And that was a brutal year. I lost $500,000 that year alone. And so I learned the painful way of playing out a position, and now on this next season of growth, I'm about to enter another rapid season of growth. I'm like not starting significant ventures that require significant capital without the right operating partners.
Mhm.
And that's going to help me do much, much better this round. So I'm very, very excited.
I love that you say seasons.
Yeah.
Because language is so powerful, and even the way that you say it, you're like, yeah, so I got a cut on my shoulder once, and then healed. You know what I mean? Whereas it's so easy as humans to hold on to these things that have happened and to recycle the same thing over and over again and project it into the future. So I know that you also do NLP.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you have something to share around that, I'm sure, as well. So with NLP and the work that you do within entrepreneurs, and also this framework of really, tapping into your genius, how does this all come together?
Yeah, the framework with the genius, and then NLP. NLP is just a
Well,
tool in
within
my
your
tool.
own self, like within your own life,
Oh,
how
within
has
my own
that
self. Yeah.
transformed something for you? Just
Yeah.
your language is so powerful, the way you
Hmm.
say things, that I'm like, I'm picking up something here.
Yeah. Great. Love the precision of the language. Our words are our commands. And in
Hmm.
fact, I'm going to show you something. Here's the power of our language. So I'm holding up my first ever positive affirmations board. Maybe you can kind of read it, but it's backwards. Maybe, I
I
don't know.
handle high level stress and large challenges with creativity and resourcefulness. I love that.
Yeah.
I
And
am
then,
an extraordinary, loving, and caring person. Love
yeah.
it.
Yeah. And then go down to number 7. I mentor and lead some of the brightest and best people in the world.
Right.
So when I first wrote this, I was 31 years old. I had also number 4, I'm here to liberate millions of people to be who God calls them to be, et cetera, travel the world, experience the beauty and richness of various cultures. Well, when I first wrote that, I was not married. I had not traveled extensively for a long time. I was 3 years into real estate. I had not been on a vacation in a long time. I had also not mentored really anybody except recreationally. And here I am writing that I mentor and lead some of the brightest and best people in the world. And I'm just investing in real estate and selling real estate.
Right.
Well, fast forward 4 or 5 years later, I'd started a bunch of businesses. By that point, I was traveling the world. I went to an average of 6 to 9 countries a year. I was now mentoring people at $1,000 a phone call that were building, 7 or 8 figure companies. And now I literally signed up this week a client. I don't want to say his name, but one of my consulting clients, I'm optimizing his sales process. So one of his business partners is Elon Musk. So he's that
Amazing.
high level, like a phenomenal, multiple time New York Times bestselling author, brilliant, absolutely brilliant individual. And so I get to optimize their whole sales process, and and then other guys that I get to mentor and connect with. So it's like proclaim it. It should feel weird the first time you proclaim it, and you want to proclaim it in the power. Like if we want to talk about weak ass language, is like I want to or I hope to. That's not or I try.
No,
No,
no.
you're like just rip your spine out and throw it on the ground. Or if you're male, neuter yourself. See how that feels.
I wasn't expecting that. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything, but I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we're actually doing though.
Right.
Like I'll say, and sometimes in even a mastermind call,
Yeah.
I'll say, guys, all right, let's all say, I try as powerfully as we can. I try.
Yeah.
Versus I am. And we'll say,
Right.
I am. Like Muhammad Ali in 1964 says, I am the greatest before he ever wins the World Heavyweight Championship of the world. I actually wrote a poem about it. And he got laughter and jeers on it when he was Cassius Clay, was his old name. Then he flipped to a more powerful alter ego, which is part of what I do within an NLP too. Of like, you introduced me as Magic Mike.
Yeah, I
Magic
was
Mike
just gonna
shows
say,
up.
how did Magic Mike come about? Like, here's a story here.
Yeah. Well, in that season of loss, I'm a type 3 on the Enneagram, high achiever. I want to kick butt. I'm a male. I want to be a provider. And here I am, newly married. Things are falling apart. I've got fires burning all around me, waking up with my arms crossed around me. And then, and I felt shame. I felt embarrassment. I'm still like kicking off remnants of that. And so I created a more powerful alter ego. Magic Mike shows up. Actually, I had a client name me that in 2019, said I was creating magic in her life. And so I show up and create magic in people's lives and expand their world. And you're going to see a lot more Magic Mike here in the future. But that's he leads with a whole different energy than the Mike Zeller that went through the suffering and shame of 2018.
I love that. And just stepping into that and claiming that. And we have that in common. A lot of my friends call me Magic. They just call me Magic. There's no Magic D, just Magic.
I
So
like it.
that's why we're connected. One of the things that I've noticed that I really, when I notice it within myself, I have to catch myself and take a moment to close my eyes, to feel, and then to respond. And it comes up a lot with my clients too, is I don't know. Like, I don't know. Whenever anyone says, I don't know, I'm like, well, you do know. What if you did know? Or what would that look like? Or what would that feel like? And I think it's so easy for us when something's challenging, when we're being asked to go within ourselves to a point where maybe we don't want to look, it's uncomfortable, it's unfamiliar, we may not want to get real with ourselves. We can say, I don't know, but we always know. And we're always seeing what the next best step is for us to step into. So we're always in the inner knowing of just tuning in. So that's something that comes up a lot. But yeah, the try, or I might, no, take out the spine, throw it on the concrete ground, and proceed with life. I love it. So let's talk a little bit. So you have a couple amazing things that are happening right now. You have the release of your book, Genius Within. You have that framework. So tell us a little bit about the story of the book and why everyone needs to pick up this book.
Yeah, it's really working with hundreds of entrepreneurs, helping them, and high achievers, not just entrepreneurs, but athletes, entertainers. And it's powerful because people who accomplish extraordinary things, you can trace back and look, they put themselves in extraordinarily right positions over and over and over again. And sports is a great metaphor. You look at Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or LeBron James and the Lakers, or Michael Jordan and the Bulls. They had the right players in the right position. Or Jim Collins says it's get the right people on the bus, and then you figure out where the right seats are. So we got to know our right seat. If you know your right seat, that's where you can get paid disproportionately more than an average human being, and also be really fulfilled, really fulfilled, aligned, and work less, but have more joy in your work, where your work becomes play. So I think it's available for us all. I believe, to my core, it's available for us all, but most people don't do the work. We go through life and we're unconscious, we're kind of vaguely familiar with, and the clues are all around us. And so I think I've created the greatest process in the world. I'll unabashedly say.
I like it.
I will unabashedly say, because I've yet to see anyone create a more complete process for finding your deepest lane of genius. And when you read the book, or you go through the process, or whatever, I see it with my one-on-one clients. I see it with my mastermind members. When they go through the full process, what would have taken them, I have one guy, he's worth 8 figures. He was just stuck, kind of hazing his way through his new venture, and didn't have a clue really how he was going to do it, and was feeling lost. And he was working with someone else, and then we started working together. Within a month and a half, actually more like a month, everything shifted. Radical clarity. Because when we got clarity, guess what? We got confidence. It's 5 C's. Clarity precedes confidence. Greater confidence, we act with more conviction, which leads to more courage, which leads to a higher level of commitment. It all starts with clarity. That's the first domino to fall. So the clues are around us, but we have to organize them, pull them together. And that's why the book is called Think and Grow Rich, not Hustle and Grow Rich, not Grind and Grow Rich, not Wake Up at 5 a.m. and Grow Rich, not Meditate and Grow Rich. All those things help, but it's the thinking and the alignment. So you're brilliant at helping people get energetically aligned. So that's a piece of it, right? Like we got to be attuned to who we are and be honest with ourselves. We can't be great at everything.
And that's the thing when we're trying to be everything to everyone, we lose ourselves. And I love the honesty piece because when you can get radically honest with where you're at and be like, this isn't working anymore, whatever that is in your life. Like, I'm not fulfilled. I'm not making the kind of impact that I want. I'm not making the kind of abundance that I want. That is where change can happen. So, the radical honesty, the courage to look at what's not working, to make the difficult decisions sometimes that are uncomfortable in the moment, and then show up and take action. And so, this book I'm super excited and I want to learn more
Thank you.
about the process because I haven't heard of anyone talking about all of these different personality tests and also this system. And I know that everything that Mike does is magic because everywhere I go, everyone knows you. Like there's always like, oh, Mike Zeller, like a ton of people that I know are connected with you the day I met you. And I was like, oh, weird. Who's this Mike guy? Like, we're supposed to be friends. And I'm like, oh, just really good energy. Like I have something to learn from him, or we're supposed to be friends or create something. And so so connection is one of your biggest, superpowers. Is that right?
Yeah, I love connecting people. I love being connected. It's
Yeah.
and just being thoughtful and generous. The
Yeah.
same when we're generous, we create generosity back to us too, and it's just a better way of living.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I just feel like you know everyone and you're just magic. You're everywhere. So what are if you were to give our listeners a piece of advice, they said thoughtfulness, generosity, what is another great thing to do that people can start to embody and practice to create more authentic connections in their life?
You know, leading with generosity and genuine interest. So I'll give you an example. One of my business partners is a woman named Natasha Graziano, or Grano was before she just got married.
She's awesome. I love her energy.
She's an absolute joy and just an incredible human being. Well, we first got connected because I was on a Zoom with Michael Graziano, who's now her husband. He's like, oh, you should meet my friend Natasha. And I had her on a mind map. I had her on a mind map as a speaker at this event that I was architecting and designing my head. And I showed it to him and he's like, oh, I know Natasha. And he's like, zoomed her in, got her on the Zoom. We talked and I was like, oh, cool. She's really great. And then we connected outside of that. And then I helped her actually mind map her second book. Like we just did it over a couple sessions. It's usually something I just do for my clients. And so we mind mapped it. And then I was like, you know what, maybe something will come out of this. She's a big Instagram influencer, got millions of followers. And then I can't remember what happened next. Oh, I ideated on the Abundant You Challenge, this big, money mindset event that we do every 2 or 3 months. And now we've had 2,000 people go through the program, pay and sign up for it. We'll have probably another 5,000, 6,000 before the end of the year when we do the New Year's Eve event. And it just started with generosity and builds trust. And now I'm becoming her business partner on everything and doing my genius, which is, helping architect and design out and optimize the business. She's amazing on stage, amazing presence, but she doesn't want to touch the back end stuff. She's not good at it. It's not her deal. If I'm on stage all the time like she is, I'm exhausted and I'm worn out. Like I'm not naturally a star persona. She's naturally a star persona as her primary strength. And she's great at it. And it's a joy. And there's nothing but love and support between us.
Amazing. I love that. That's so beautiful. And so going into the 33 days abundant self challenge or program, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because so many people experience abundance blocks and we want to hear more about it.
Yeah. So in that process where I lost $1 million, I was like, all right, Sarah Blakely, do you know what Sarah Blakely's have you heard me talk about Sarah Blakely?
No,
About
I haven't.
Her greatest question when she was a kid?
No.
Okay. So when she was a kid, you know what her dad used to ask her at dinner every night? What did you fail at today?
What did you fail at? Oh, okay. Right.
And so and then I read in my early 20s, John Maxwell's book, Failing Forward. I was reading about a book a week after I went to the seminar and learned how important it was to, master subjects. But I read that book. I was like, all right, so I'm going to just, from this point on, I'm going to embrace failures as learning lessons. So when I went through all that, I was like, freaking A, I'm getting a lot of learning lessons right now. And they painfully suck, but that's okay. But they're setting me up. Napoleon Hill said, behind every setback is the seed of an equal or greater opportunity. Well, what's a seed? Take a walnut. Walnut's a seed. Hard outer shell. Doesn't naturally become a walnut tree. More often than not, it becomes nothing. Squirrel food that's buried or something like that. But if you crack that shell and you feed it and water it, get it sunlight, fertilizer, etc., give it the right environment to flourish, that seed becomes something much greater. Well, so I was like, all right, I'm going through the season of hell. I'm paying, and had to pay back all these debts and all these things that went wrong. And I was like, all right, I read about 93 money mindset books. I'm counting. I'm actually read some of them 5 or 6 times. And I'm rewiring my mindset. And I was like, all right, now I started creating and pulling out some of the best processes that help me create that new wavelength that's above my old identity and help me move past, scarcity Mike to magic Mike. And so that's why I created 33-day abundance journal that helps you rewrite some of the best exercises that I've found, some ones that I've created, others that are kind of historic, been around for centuries or whatever. And I love it. It's been beautiful to see people go through it and experience life change.
Love that. I'll have to pick that up. So I'll add the links and everything below in the show notes so that people can reach out to you, so they can grab your journal, grab your book. As we wrap up today's conversation, Mike, is there anything else that you want to leave our listeners with, a quote or anything else that you feel called to teach or share on?
The world desperately needs your greatness. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. So shine with all your bright light. Is there someone whose path you'll cross that will be tempted to play small unless you shine in the fullness of your greatness?
I love that. Thank you so much for being here. As you were saying that, I got goosebumps. Thank you so much, Mike, for being here and sharing your greatness with us, and also this framework around really finding the genius within. And it's just been so awesome to have you. So thank you again. Mwah, lots of love.
Thank you. Pleasure. You're an absolute radiant gem, and it's been a pleasure connecting as always.